Next up is Mr. John McGecky, and it's not McGeechee, it's McGecky. Thank you. Actually, before John gets up here, I want to say our Sevens program has been a major focus for this board for the last 2 years, thinking of the Sevens at the Olympics. So we really did a lot of funding for it and did a lot of programs for it. And John has stepped up more than I could have ever imagined anyone else stepping up into this role. And so I think he deserves your attention, your applause, and your admiration, actually, because he's bald and has a beard.
For the note, I only have a beard because I can't grow any more hair. John McGecky. I oversee the Sevens. It's really close. I am also, in full disclosure, the director of the Northeast Academy, one of your budget line items, which we'll talk about as well. So, last year, we started a women's championship series. I gave a talk at last year's AGM and talked about how we wanted to grow the women's game, make it more competitive in the New England area. I felt it had dropped off from times of past. So we managed to get the series together. We had a 3-tournament series to determine the champion of New England, and that was Boston Women. Congratulations. Boston Women. Unlike the men's series, so the women's series then go off into a tournament and do a crossover tournament with the Empire division. Top 4 seeds from New England, really the only 4 seeds from New England, went off to play against the top 4 seeds from Empire. Boston finished 2nd, qualified for nationals, and went off to nationals. Congratulations. On the men's side, the championship series was actually a bit more competitive this year. We had a lot more teams involved. We had probably, I would say, a tight race going into the last tournament. There was a little bit of administration snafu, which I have learned and will take full ownership of. However, going into Saratoga, we had basically a 3-horse race between Boston, Saratoga, and Mystic. And Boston won. Congratulations. The other championship series that we have is the Northeast Championship Series. So that is on the men's side only. It is a 5-tournament series in which NERFU and Empire teams play. And the top 2 teams from there then go on to compete at National Club Sevens. The only team, or club should I say, that participated from New England was Mystic. They put in 2 teams. Their top team ended up placing 2nd in the Northeast Championship. They then went on to Nationals and took 3rd. They actually only lost 1 game, and that was to Seattle, who ended up winning the Nationals. So they're not here, or otherwise I would congratulate them. In terms of the tournament scheduling, so listen, for me, it's a learning process. This is my 2nd year doing it. There was some passion this past year, which is good because it means that we're getting more competitive and people actually worry about what points they're getting. So everybody asked me, you know, where's the schedule? Where's the schedule? You know, we're in the middle of February. Hopefully everybody got the announcement. So we're accepting tournament applications through the end of February, basically the 28th. Go onto the website, complete your application form. No, I know, but I said the 28th, which is a Sunday. The tournament, the schedule itself will then be put together and made available on the NERFU website the middle of March. If you do not have your application in, then you will have to fight for an open date. All tournaments, all clubs that submit for a tournament that get it in before the deadline, essentially give me some options with regards to your dates. If there are conflicting dates, I'm pretty good about getting people on the phone and letting you work it out. This isn't for me to decide unless I have to, but I'd rather you have the flexibility to work with one another. Most clubs are pretty good about using the dates that they've done in past, and so we try and accommodate that. I think overall, and you guys can be the judge of this one, if you competed in the Sevens this past summer. I think it was well organized. The tournaments that I went to were well run, and I think overall it was a successful year with regards to the tournaments. Anybody have any comments on that? Okay. So, Northeast Academy. Does anybody know what the Northeast Academy actually is? Anybody heard of the Northeast Academy? Just show up hand quickly. All right, well, it was more than last year, so that's a good thing. So Northeast Academy, we actually launched a women's program this year. To date, it had only been for men. And what it is essentially a pathway to the U.S. team. So we work closely with the U.S. coaches, both 7s and 15s. Although the academy has been strictly 7s, we are able to work with the 15s coaches and get players the exposure they need to at the national level. We realized that we had a hole with regards to the women's game. Obviously, it's our ambition to grow the women's game. And so with the NERFU Championship Series, that was one way. The other way that I could influence that was through the Northeast Academy. And I will say it's been a success. So we now have a program both in Boston and in New York. And we are partnered with ARPTC, American Pro Training Center, which is a full-time residency program for 7s based out of Arkansas. And we also have a direct pipeline to the U.S. women's team, 7s and 15s. So a lot of our athletes that have come through the program have gone to the NESC event. If anybody knows what the NESC event is. Anybody? You guys are a good crowd and very quiet. I love it. So the NESC events essentially is where on the women's front is where they get a lot of the top competitive athletes together and have them play in competitions. They get assigned a team. They play a couple of games over a week period. And then from that, the U.S. coaches are there and both women's 15s and 7s. And from that, players can then be reviewed and then selected. So it's a good avenue. But anyway, so long story short, is the Northeast Academy is there to develop players. And we rely on the union funding. So the academy itself, and I have all the financials if anybody ever wants to kind of go through them. We went to 8 tournaments, not all men, some women. 8 tournaments, and it cost a total of $120,000. Let me say that again, $120,000. This GU contributed $40,000 to that. So if you want to know where your budget's going, that's part of it.
I see a lot of people looking at the budget, and I saw that when it was mentioned that it's a line item, so first off, thank you. Secondly, it's actually listed under men's 7 select side and women's 7 select side, not under New England Academy. The reason behind that is because, as was just pointed out, the women's program for New England Academy just began. It is this board's intention that if there is a line item in the budget that represents men's clubs, there will be an equal line item to represent women's clubs. So there have been women's select side 7s going on. It's just not been through this venue in the past, which this has been a venue that's been so far much more successful. But that's why the line items are listed as that. So that everyone's clear.
Thank you. So if anybody has any questions on that, obviously you can come see me afterwards, or if you want to raise it now, feel free. To give you a little bit about the academy teams itself, so like I said, we entered 8 tournaments. We won 3 of them. We took second in 2 of them, and we took third in 2 of them. Another thing to note is one of the players now currently plays on the U.S. national team on the men's side, that he got selected through the Northeast Academy. And we also have several of the women's players now in contention, not for this 7s go around, but for the next Olympics. So I'll end with this. So for 2016, one of the things that I want to do in this position is not only grow the game, but help drive the competition. You guys do a very good job of building the game as it is and exposing new players to the game. I want to take it up a notch, and I need your help, okay? I know some of you sitting in here, you know, you're looking around, you're maybe a type 5 player and have no interest in sevens. For that, I'm sorry. But in all honesty, I wish people would invest more in sevens. And when I say invest more in sevens, you know, it's not just about giving money. You know, a lot of people will do stuff for not even a penny. Get a coach. Commit to a sevens program. It's a great recruiting tool. There's a lot of colleges in here that would love to go play for a men or women's club through the summer because their college isn't playing. And a good way to do that is to give them a competitive environment within the sevens. We've set up the structure with a competitive series both at the NERFU level and also at the Northeast level. We have the academy. So all I ask is if you try and invest in your sevens program, or if you don't have the funding to do so or the means to do so, if you have players that are strong players, provide them with the information and allow them to play with other clubs. I know that might not sound the best thing, and everybody kind of balks at that one, but it's the only way that this union will get better at the game, okay? The players will come back. Don't worry. Everybody always asks me, well, if I lend them, they'll never come back. Well, you can work that through with your player. But at the end of the day, we need to drive competition so that we can actually, as a union, perform better, and more importantly, as a country, perform better. We're going into the Olympics this year, okay? A lot of you were probably disappointed with the World Cup results, right? Well, it starts here. You might not think that, but it does. So, on that, I would also ask that if you are interested in starting a sevens program or looking to beef up your sevens program, feel free to reach out. You can also leverage the resources at the Northeast Academy. We're going to start having coaches coming in and shadowing the practices, so more to follow on that. Cool? Questions? Of course not. All right, thanks. Oh, nice.
I was wondering, last year it was a little bit hard to figure out which one were the qualifiers for the women's. I was just wondering if that's going to be on the schedule. You had said, I know that it's in mid-March. Will that be listed on the NERFU website as well? What are qualifiers and what aren't this time?
That's correct. So the only reason for that was there was such a delay in actually trying to build out the women's series last year, so it kind of all get put together last minute. So on the men's front, we'll have 4 tournaments, and on the women's front, we'll have 3, knowing that the 4th one would be the Northeast. And that date, the Northeast tournament in Saratoga, is already set. Sadly, I don't know off the top of my head. I think it's in July, like 16th or something, so we'll obviously, 18th, thank you. So we'll set out 3 tournaments prior to that. So it'll probably start mid-June, and then obviously with the 4th of July weekend off. Good question. So, okay, number one, reach out to me. My contact information is on the NERFU website. Typically what we do is we will work with the local area coaches. Players can come in through a couple of different ways. 1, coach recommendations. 2, we will have a tryout, generally around the May time frame. And 3, if any one of the current staff is witnessing and sees a player, they can also recommend a player. Good question too. Anybody else? Yep.
Who is the NESC player for the Eagles?
Nate Osberger. Anybody else? Cool. Thank you.
No, that was a mouthful, but I think we got our money's worth. I really want to commend John and the rest of the team on the sevens work we've done. This union has spent a lot of money on that. It's your money. It's not mine. It's not anyone up on this board. It's our money. We spent a lot of money on it. I think the results we've achieved are commendable, and I guess that's actually going to be my legacy leaving this thing, is that I started that program as opposed to the April funding for women, which that's really what I was going for. Anyways, I rant.